Hi guys, how you all doing? Lovely to see you all. Hope you all had a good weekend, and I'm sure you all did as Newcastle fans after that 3-1 win over Southampton in the South Coast. Much needed after the Bournemouth demolition job at St James's Park the previous Saturday. But I thought I would jump on here today just on the back of some controversy which some of you may have seen, some of you may not have, over social media at the weekend concerning Sky Sports and myself, one of my colleagues, and I thought I would just come on here and just talk about it a little bit, just to try and sort of put a little bit of meat on the bones, hopefully allow you guys to understand things a bit more from my point of view or from Sky's point of view when it comes to our coverage. It's been quite difficult to read some of the stuff that I've seen, I have to say, over the last 48 hours, because I know that people are getting things totally wrong. And look, to an extent, I can understand some of the frustrations and the anger in some places. But I suppose I just wanted to come on and explain to you guys it's maybe not all as it seems, and hopefully sort of take the sting out of the situation. For those of you that didn't see it, my colleague Mark McAdam was doing Southampton Newcastle on Saturday for Soccer Saturday. I was at the Sunderland Plymouth game, and Mark described the second Alexander Isak goal with the words, "You can see exactly why all Arsenal fans want to sign this guy." Now, I can see why some people were frustrated by that, because why is Mark mentioning Arsenal in a Southampton Newcastle game? And look, I've spoke to Mark since, and I think he gets that, and I think if he was to do it again, he would say it differently, and he probably thought it was ill-judged. But he probably wasn't expecting the avalanche and the torrent of abuse that sort of came his way after that. I can see why Mark would have said that, because Isak's opened up his body, curled one into the bottom corner, and I think he's thinking Thierry Henry. I mean, Alexander Isak, I'm sure we will all agree, is probably the closest thing we've seen in the Premier League to Thierry Henry in terms of his style, his height, his pace, everything. Even looks a little bit like him as well. And I think that was in Mark's head when the goal went in. But look, Mark doesn't have to justify himself. If he wants to say this is why the Arsenal supporters all want to sign Alexander Isak, that's absolutely fine. Yes, it probably wasn't the perfect place to do it in a Southampton Newcastle game, but when it's live, I know I'm on live TV all the time, and you can do as much prep as you want. You can have as many notes. I've got notes here, probably won't even look at them. You can have as many notes as you want, but sometimes you just say the first thing that's in your head. And look, Mark works in the transfer shows. Alexander Isak's been linked to Arsenal a lot through various publications, not just Sky, I should mention, for a while now. And it didn't emanate from Sky, it started elsewhere. And he's probably spoken about Arsenal and Isak for a while now, and it was probably just the first thing that came to his head when he scored that goal. But like I say, Mark shouldn't have to justify that, as all he was saying was the Arsenal fans would like to sign him. And I think that's true. I think we all know that Arsenal would like to sign him, and I think we all know that the Arsenal fans would like to have him. They don't have a centre forward, and someone like Isak, you would imagine, would be someone that they would want in their squad. So if you actually listen back to the words, that was all Mark was saying. From what I'm reading on social media is, I'm getting that you guys, or not all of you, but certainly the ones who've commented, are frustrated, angry, annoyed at what they deem to be an agenda. I've seen the word agenda written a lot, and a narrative from Sky that Alexander Isak will become an Arsenal player, and that we are trying to push this transfer. Let me tell you, as someone who's worked at Sky Sports News for 11 and a half years now, I have never once, ever been told to try and push a certain player to a club. It just does not happen. There has never been any memo sent down to say, try and speak about a certain player and connect him to a certain club. It just would not happen. It's unprofessional, as a lot of you guys have suggested it would be. And it's just something that we would never get involved in. Yes, look, football agents probably try and push players to certain clubs. I think we're all aware of that. I take umbrage to the fact that I'm reading a lot of Sky are trying to push Isak to Arsenal. Sky have got no interest in any player going to any club. We just want to report the facts on what is happening. And I read a lot about this cartel, and it's all about keeping the top 6 clubs happy. Well, do you know what? You guys probably are one of the top 6 clubs right now. So think about yourself as one of the top clubs. Think about yourself as a club that can hold on to Alexander Isak. Don't be scared of people linking Isak to Arsenal or Chelsea or Real Madrid or Liverpool. Don't be scared of that. Like, be confident that you can hold on to someone like Alexander Isak. And I find it a little bit. It feels like some of the fans are a bit oversensitive about things. All players get mentioned with moves. All clubs are mentioned in the January transfer window. Just yesterday, I saw Jamie Carragher basically saying to Villa, you should sell John Duran, take the 70 million, sell him, get it done. Are the Aston Villa fans up in arms about it? Probably some of them are. I probably just don't notice it. But he's saying that because that's his job as a pundit. It's Paul Merson's job as a pundit to give his opinion on transfers. He's a former Arsenal player, he's an Arsenal legend, and he thinks Alexander Isak would be a perfect fit for Arsenal. That's his opinion, that's the view he's paid to do. That's not Sky's opinion. That's something that Paul Merson feels would be a good signing. Yesterday, I heard Paul Merson talking about Garnacho to Chelsea from Man United, and Christopher Nkunku from Chelsea to Manchester United in the other way. Now, I get the fact that you think he's probably been mentioned too much. Again, we're a 24-hour rolling news channel that need to talk about transfers all the time. We have podcasters on, we have YouTubers on, we have pundits on, we have reporters like myself who are trying to find out information on, and everyone's got something to say. Now, I would probably have something different to say to a YouTuber. I mean, I'm saying this as I'm on YouTube right now, but you know what I mean. I would probably have something different to say to a podcaster, and I would have something different to say to a pundit like Paul Merson or Jamie Carragher, because we all perform different roles. But look, Sky aren't the only ones to talk about Isak potentially moving on. So too are plenty other outlets, and it just takes a quick scan online on Google to see that. But there seems to be this narrative out there that Sky are the ones trying to push it. And again, there's never once been any kind of memo or narrative or agenda, or I'm told what to say regarding trying to push a player to a football club. It just does not happen. It honestly does not happen, and I can say that from my heart. And I would like to think I've got enough good grace from you guys from years covering the club, over 10 years now. And you know, you saw what happened when the takeover went through. You know, I knew, I got it, I understood it from your guys' point of view. And for me, Newcastle doing well, Sunderland doing well, Middlesbrough doing well. I've got friends, I've got family who are Newcastle fans. You want them to do well, and I want to report on Champions League matches. I want to be the reporter who reports when Newcastle finally pick up a trophy, whether it's this year, next year, or in 5 years' time. I want to be there, and I want to be covering these things. So I don't want to be talking about a Newcastle with Alexander Isak at Arsenal. I want you guys to be strong as possible. So whether a podcaster on our channel says something on one of the chat shows, or a pundit says something, that's just their opinion. Do you honestly think that Alexander Isak is going to get his head turned about a potential move to Arsenal because a podcaster on one of our transfer shows talks about it, or because Paul Merson comes out and says Arsenal should break the bank to sell him? That's not going to turn Alexander Isak's head. Alexander Isak's head will be turned if an offer came in, or if Arsenal approached Newcastle and said, look, this is what we're offering, these are the wages on the table. That's when a player's head gets turned. And look, Alexander Isak is hammering the goals in this season. Another 2 at the weekend. His head isn't getting turned for anything at the moment. He's got his foot to the floor, and he, like his rest of his teammates, is doing everything to try and get a trophy back to St James's Park, end the trophy drought, and play in the Champions League next season. If Newcastle get into the Champions League this season, and let's say you've got a decent chance the way you're going right now, certainly if the form continues, I would imagine Alexander will stay for another crack at it next season. Obviously, it might be a different story if you don't get Champions League football, because he's then got a decision to make. But you know, the power's in Newcastle's a team's hands, but also the power is in Alexander Isak's hands, because his goals will help propel Newcastle to potentially to the Champions League and to a trophy. So I just wanted to come on and try and give you guys a bit of understanding of things from my point of view. Although I'm not trying to speak on behalf of Sky, I just find it a bit frustrating when I read stuff like that. And certainly I work as hard as we possibly can to bring you guys the news as factually as we and as I possibly can. And it hurts a little bit when you see as many of the comments that you saw. And Mark, who's a really good reporter, he is a friend of mine, and of all the reporters we have at Sky Sports News, he's one of the most respected and professional and honest guys that we've got. So I was a bit disappointed that like he kind of got caught up in all of that as well. And again, I think he would probably do it differently again if he could have. But at the same time, he doesn't have to justify himself to anyone. What he said was actually correct. He probably just didn't say it in the right place. Another thing I want to say is I get a lot of people saying to me, it's all about the top six and this, that and the next thing. When Leicester won the league title in 2016, everyone was delighted. Everyone across the board in the media, because it was someone different winning the league. It wasn't Liverpool, it wasn't Manchester City, it wasn't Arsenal, it was someone different. No one in the media, I would say, unless they happen to be a Man City fan, wants Man City to win the league every year. Is boring. It's actually more fun this year, the fact Liverpool are doing well. It was great that Newcastle got into the top four 2 years ago. It was amazing that Leicester won in 2016. And everyone in the media thought that. I think everyone at Sky thought that. We loved covering that. We did so much on that story. And it was such a fresh and new way to cover the title celebrations and everything else. And it was great to see a sort of provincial team like Leicester doing something like that. And I think that was felt across the board, not just at Sky, but across the whole media. So there isn't any push for it has to be the top six within the media. I'll tell you that certainly is not the case. And another thing I want to leave on is just think where, I'm not trying to preach, but just think where you guys were 3.5 years ago, pre-takeover. You didn't have guys like Alexander Isak. You could only dream of having Sandro Tonali or Bruno Guimaraes or Sven Botman. You didn't have guys like that. You know, you had players you had weren't worth any money. You couldn't have sold anyone. You're now bringing in young European talent, nurturing them, making them better, and with a view at some stage to selling them on at a profit. Alexander Isak's not going to be there his whole career. Neither is Bruno Guimaraes. Neither is Sandro Tonali. It's just not the way it works these days. You know, they are going to move on at some point, but Newcastle will improve these players and sell them on at a profit, whenever that may be. And I think you guys need to look at it. And again, sorry, I don't mean to sound like I'm preaching, because I know some of you might agree with me anyway, but I just think the fans who are getting angry and irate at the whole situation need to stop being, I don't know, I find it almost like you're acting a bit like fans of a small club. Don't think like that. Think that you're fans of a big club, and don't be worried. Who cares if Arsenal are linked with Alexander Isak? It's not going to make any difference to the way he thinks. He'll know about it if Arsenal are in for him. Who cares if Bruno Guimaraes is linked to Real Madrid or Sandro Tonali is linked to Manchester City? Who cares? I'm just making those up, by the way. It doesn't. You guys should not be. You guys should almost be quite proud. You should be proud. You should take it as a compliment that other top clubs in Europe are looking at your best players and are linked with them. And it shows that the club, the recruitment team, the manager, you guys as fans are all doing a great job to nurture these players, make them better, make them feel like they're part of the project, and make teams that come to St James's Park absolutely fear going there right now. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that your players are getting like. But let me tell you, we've had Newcastle podcasters and YouTubers on as well, and they speak from a Newcastle point of view. Newcastle went for Mark Gehey last year. Do you think the Crystal Palace fans were annoyed about that? Newcastle fans talking about Mark Gehey all summer? Yeah, probably, yeah. It's just what happens. So, rant over from me. It's not even a rant, but I wanted to just come on and explain a bit. I hope you get where I'm coming from with this. And yeah, I just wanted to say that I feel like it's all been a bit of a misunderstanding, and certainly from my point of view, I want as many good players to remain at Newcastle for as long as possible, so that I am reporting and you're supporting a team that is on the up, and that has been the case for the last 3.5 years, and long may it continue. So I hope that clears things up a little bit for you guys and gives you an understanding, I suppose, from my point of view as well. Now, I have considered turning off the comments on my YouTube. I have done on my Twitter, because I didn't want to look at them due to some of the abuse I got over the weekend. But I am interested to hear what you guys have got to say, and just your thoughts on the topic as well, because obviously I've given my thoughts, and I think it's important that I hear what you guys have got to say. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.